Welcome to Strip Cover Lit. I'm Adrian Fort.
And I'm Dalton Gentry.
And we are here for this week's review. This time it's a short story. Dalton, what short story?
Back to short stories. We are going to go from the 10th of December. The 10th of December. George Saunders.
George Saunders.
George Saunders. My first introduction to George Saunders. I believe you've read him before, haven't you?
I have. I would like to start this with a little bit of throat clearing, though.
Okay.
We have done several short stories as short stories. This is another short story that we will do as a short story review, as opposed to an entire collection. Now, the only short stories that we've done as a collection have been from Junot Diaz. All the short stories that we've done individually have been Ernest Hemingway and now George Saunders. That is not because we are discriminating against or in favor of white guys. I thought when Drown came out that it was a novel. We had it on the slate to do as an entire thing. And really, it's not until about the fourth short story in Drown that you really understand it's not a novel, right?
Yeah.
Like they all seem like they could be connected and come around at some point, but it is not a novel. So that is an apology. Another thing, I picked up a lot of copies of 10th of December, so we will be giving away a copy of 10th of December, so make sure that you follow us on Twitter at StripCover and or on Facebook at StripCoverLit, and in the comments below, what should we do, Dalton?
What are you thinking? Since you know you got like 50 of these for $1, I mean, there's stacks of them.
We're only giving away one this time.
But we're giving away one because
One.
we need 50 copies of 10th of December.
I don't know when I'm going to waterlog one. So what if we do haikus? A haiku contest.
Okay.
Haikus about us. Haikus about Strip Cover Lit. Your favorite things, your least favorite things. How good looking I am. I mean, it just depends. Whatever you want to
That's what we in the business call a Pandora's box that you just opened there.
Open it up.
But a haiku contest, we'll pick our favorite. Is that how
We'll
we're
pick our
gonna do
favorite, yeah. That's what we'll do.
And I guess we'll mail that person a copy of 10th of December.
Yeah, so make sure you follow us on some form of social media so that we can get your address.
Exactly. Autographed Polaroid to be included. Do they make Polaroids? Is that
They
a thing?
do. It's a very big hipster thing.
Oh, is it?
You don't know about it.
Well, we can get that taken care of. Anyway, 10th of December.
10th of December.
George Saunders.
Oh, yeah.
What do you like? What don't you like?
My three good things are this is flawless stream of consciousness.
Okay.
Right? You were in there. My second is this is a very emotional piece. There's a lot of highs, a lot of lows, a lot of grays. And Saunders creates real people with all of their flaws.
Okay. All right. I have this as a great example of how to change perspective in a story. Back and forth, back and forth. You've got characters talking to multiple characters in their head.
Oh, yeah.
So, good times. I felt like I was drowning. Well done, George Saunders.
Okay.
Saunders. I'm going to do that 500 times. Now, are you aware of the premise as to what this short story was written for?
No.
I went above and beyond. Apparently, this has come from the question given to Saunders, how would you react to a prolonged death? That's what 10th of December came from. So I think accurate. I give him accuracy for this scenario. He did well answering the question he was given.
Okay.
So props to him. Something you don't like. What do you think?
You have to read it, because it is such heavy stream of consciousness, you have to read it in one sitting, or you're lost.
Yes.
You can't pick up a Saunders piece midstream and figure it out. You've got to be there for everything or you just don't get it. Saunders doesn't know when to lay off the humor. There are times where it's a very emotional part that should have gravitas, and he'll ruin it just a little bit. And my third thing, you can pick out quotes that you like in Saunders, but Saunders is not quotable in the classic sense.
Okay.
Because again, that stream of conscious. His prose is yielding and forgiving, right? It is not bold and out there. Like the one thing that stands out to me is the most quotable quote I know, and I'm going to get it wrong now because I'm saying this. He jests at scars that never felt a wound.
Okay.
Shakespeare, You don't find things like that in Saunders.
No. It's a conversational tone, if that's maybe a correct wording there. Sometimes it is hard to follow with the different uses of voices per character. Get a little muddled, get a little lost throughout that. I think I agree with you on when to pause the humor because it gets almost confusing, especially with the child's perspective of the beavers and the whole thing with the beginning.
Right.
I had no idea what this story was actually about.
You're definitely thrown right in.
Yes. So maybe a little build up for that. And I think although the characters are well established and I like them, I wanted to know more about them. It seemed like there could have been stories upon stories about who these characters were. And it's pushed at, it's there, but it leaves just a little too much to the imagination, I think, if that makes sense.
I would say that's part of what makes a short story great.
You think so?
Yeah.
Fair enough. Maybe that's why I'm...
Knowing that there's another world for these characters, but you don't get it.
And it's not that I wanted the full, heavy backstory, but just a little more, I think, could have been a good addition to this piece.
Okay.
Anyway,
quotes?
I do. I have a quote. It's kind of a long quote, but again, like you said, it's hard to find a quote in Saunders. So, in the pond, he was all animal thought. No words, no self, blind panic. He resolved to really try. He grabbed for the edge. The edge broke away. Down he went. He hit the mud and pushed up. He grabbed for the edge. The edge broke away. Down he went. It seemed like it should be easy getting out, but he just couldn't do it. It was like at the carnival. It should be easy to knock 3 sawdust dogs off a ledge, and it was easy. It just wasn't easy with the amount of balls they give you. He wanted the shore. He knew that that was the right place for him. But the pond kept saying no. That's the moment where you are thrown directly in there. I loved it.
Okay.
So,
I've got a few.
Okay.
He'd waited in the med bed for Molly to go off on to the pharmacy. That was the toughest part. Just calling out a normal goodbye. His mind veered toward her now and he jerked it back with a prayer. Let me pull this off, Lord. Let me not fuck it up. Let me bring no dishonor. Let me do it clean. Let me do it cleanly. That was on 226.
Okay.
Let's see, on 233. All he had to do was stay put. I will fight no more forever. Concentrate on the beauty of the pond, the beauty of the woods, the beauty you are returning to, the beauty that is everywhere as far as you can, oh, for shit's sake. Oh, for crying out loud. Some kid was on the pond. Chubby kid in white, with a gun, carrying Eber's coat. You little fart. Put that coat down. Get your ass home. Mind your own damn it.
That one right there, that is the most realistic quote in there.
Right.
Where you have finally reached, your nirvana. You have found peace. God damn it.
Exactly.
That kid's back. It's beautiful. I love it. Anyway.
My final quote is on 234. Suddenly he was not purely the dying guy who woke nights in the bed thinking, make this not true, but again, partly, the guy who used to put bananas in the freezer, then crack them on the counter and pour chocolate over the broken chunks. The guy who'd once stood outside the classroom window in a rainstorm to see how Jody was faring with that little red-headed shit who wouldn't give her a chance at the book table. The guy who used to paint bird feeders in college and sell them on weekends in Boulder, wearing a jester hat and doing a little juggling routine. And that's where it ends. That's quote ends. But.
So, what can we say about the 10th of December? What should we talk about?
Where would you like to start? That's what I want to know. Because this is your first foray into...
This is my first George Saunders, and I am excited. This made me excited to read the Simplica Girl Diaries, which I believe is included in this.
I think it's the short story 2 before that.
So I am excited to read that. Whoever does receive a copy of this should let us know what they think of it. I love the concept of that one. But this one, I am not as versed in short stories as you are. I've attempted to dabble a little bit more in recent months. But let me compare this to a Hemingway short story.
Okay.
And why I think I might like this better.
What's that?
Hemingway.
Okay.
Clean cut. We're talking about death. We're talking about suicide. You should do it because it's the right thing to do. It's a man's thing to do.
Pick your own way out.
Pick your own way out. George Saunders. You should do it. It's the oh shit, the fat kid.
Yeah.
So I'm glad you picked that quote because that was one of my that was a beautiful, perfect, world-defining moment in this piece to me.
Yeah, and it's actually one of the things I wrote down, the view of suicide, the anti-Hemingway question mark?
See, look at that.
We're on the same page here. One thing I will say, I have read 2 collections of George Saunders.
Okay.
And I have read George Saunders as a part of 3 other short story collections, since we're talking about the short story field here. He is more enjoyable as a part of a collection than he is as a whole collection.
As a whole?
I think so.
Okay.
And I think part of it is because when you're reading it as a whole collection, you feel like you want to sit down and read. You don't want to necessarily stop at each story.
Yeah. Bit of an overload almost.
Right.
Too much Saunders. Too much of a
Right.
good thing. However, I don't think this is a bad piece. I mean, I'm not crazy about it. I'm not sure if I would have given the title of my collection the same title as this piece. But what are your thoughts? I mean, do you think this is better than I'm giving it credit?
I think so, and here's one of the reasons why.
Okay.
What's the one thing that stood out and really, really surprises you about that little boy?
That he's fat.
Well,
I mean,
but-
honestly.
But that you wouldn't think a little boy would be.
That he would be?
Right.
I don't know.
He's got a hell of a vocabulary, doesn't he?
Okay, he does. He
so
does.
he's very good with words. He's extremely advanced with words. What's the one thing the older man is terrified of? Or terrified because of? He keeps forgetting words. He keeps losing it. So what does that say about the dynamic here?
Okay.
Both of them have prided themselves probably on vocabulary, on words. Now when you get into it a little bit more, both characters are dreamers.
Yes.
In fact, that old man still harkens back to when he won the high school election, I believe it was. Mm-hmm. And he talks about, in the story, I think it's very early in the story, all the things he won't do now. He thought he was going to be this, he thought he was going to be that. But you know what? No. Since he would rather go out like this than go out the old man as that, capital letters, T-H-A-T, that, which comes up in the story. Because of what? What his father was, what an older man in his life was.
Okay.
So that young boy is growing into the old man in the story, and the old man in the story is growing into the father figure that he had.
So is the moment where the old man in the story makes the decision to forego his plan and save the child, does that break the dynamic? Is that the defining moment that separates this child becoming this old man?
I don't know that it's what separates the child from becoming the old man. I think it might be what keeps the old man from caring that he's becoming his father.
Okay.
Right?
But
Which is the like again the anti-Hemingway.
Yes,
Hemingway was concerned.
yes.
Hemingway was concerned with the young man becoming the old man, not the old man harkening back to his youth.
Okay.
Right? Hemingway was always straightforward.
Yes. And it seems like, Saunders in general is more playful than Hemingway. There's a lot of humor in this. There's a lot of wordplay, whereas Hemingway's very just straightforward and clean cut. Now, if you give me a second here, because I cannot Netherworlders.
Yeah.
So, confusing, yes, when you have 4 or 5 pages where this young kid is talking about taking out the Nethers and the Netherworlders, and they've abducted this girl and blah, blah, blah. It's good. It is. It captures the imagination of youth perfectly.
Right.
But it's hard to read. And it confused me, and then it goes from the Netherworlders to, holy crap, this kid's in a lake, he's gonna die.
There's one small mechanism upon which that hinges, and there's a small sentence in there where he grabs the pellet gun, which is, I think, disappointingly gray because Mom wouldn't let him paint it white.
Yes, because his aunt gave it to him.
Something like that. Yeah. So once, I think perhaps you were not invested in the story enough at that point, because once you see that, especially on a second or third read, you understand that you were in someone's head.
Okay.
And that head is making things up as you go.
And I think Saunders does something great here where you do become invested in this kid, and you see this as just a whimsical story about this kid going out to take out these netherworlders, which are beavers. And then, boom, he's underwater, he's going to die.
Right.
It's freezing out. And the only person who could save him is this bitter old man who is not in the best health.
Who he was trying to save.
So it's almost just instantaneous. This story completely flips. And I think that's where I say it makes me feel like I'm drowning, because you do get invested in this character, and it's just that immediately you're plunged under as soon as he's plunged under. You're right in this story alongside with him. So I give Saunders credit for that. That was good. I enjoyed that. That was a good flip for me, and that's what I think really sold me on this.
So what was the negative part about it for you?
And see, I'm not sure if I can pinpoint it. And maybe it was because it felt like you're reading almost, multiple different stories, because you have this man's perspective, the boy's perspective, the actual events, what's going on right now. You get so many perspectives in such a short time, it's hard to congeal them all together and just go with one continuous story, if that makes sense. But I think it's necessary.
But they do come together into the same story.
They do come together in the same story.
They are divergent for a small bit.
And maybe my issue was I was set up to read one story and got plunged into another story. But maybe that should be my reaction.
Here's part of the reason I think that George Saunders is not as big as he should be, partly because he writes short stories and no one reads short stories. But there's the quote, and I've mentioned it several times on the channel before, from Marilyn Monroe: if you can make a girl laugh, you can make her do anything. A lot of times readers are the opposite way. Once you make a reader laugh, they've written you off as a comedic writer.
Yes.
There's not going to be anything here. Pair with that the fact that Saunders is not quotable. Saunders does not have meaty, masculine prose. He's not Polinick, for example.
No, he's not Polinick.
If Fight Club, we did Fight Club. How often did you lift up your highlighter, if you were being honest with yourself?
Exactly.
You wouldn't have brought it up. How often did you put your highlighter down here? Because his prose does not slap you in the face. There are utterly prescient things going on, but they do not jump out at you because of the way that they are worded. Saunders is your mother telling you that you need to be happy and follow your dreams and you'll be successful. Polinick is your father telling you that you're going to have a 6-year degree in words and $50,000 student loan debt, and that he never had a son. Right?
That's delightful.
So I think part of it is that he's easily readable and he's funny, but he doesn't slap you with these moralistic things, with these bigger ideas. So it doesn't jump out.
And from a reader's perspective, if you were just pick this up off the shelf, you got this at the dollar store.
I did.
If you were at the dollar store,
I'm a bargain shopper,
and you picked this up off the shelf saying, it's some guy named George Saunders, you could read through it. You could probably enjoy it. But you wouldn't get beat over the head like you would with Polinick about this is the message, this is what's happening, this is, woe is this protagonist.
Right, and I think that most people aren't conditioned to dig deeper, right?
No. So you would just gloss it over as, well, this is a dollar store writer, it's George Saunders, you're not going to find him anywhere else. And you wouldn't actually dig deeper, so that might be his issue. He might just be considered a pop writer. And I think that's unfortunate for him, because I think there is more to this. And like I said, this made me want to read more of his. I don't know. That seems to be my general consensus with everything we read. I don't know.
Okay, so what did you take from the story, moralistically?
Okay, I love the contrast between the kid and the boy. I love the fact that the
kid and the man.
The kid and the man.
Okay.
Excuse me, bad terminology. I love the fact that the man went out to kill himself. And he was in this serene, peaceful moment, and I love the fact that was crashed by the kid.
Right.
So there is that. There's that good combination of things going on, the serenity of death, and then there's chaos of life clashing. So there are good things happening here. I didn't care for the ending. It was a happy ending. I don't like those.
It was, I don't know that I would say it was a happy ending. I don't know that I would say it was an aha ending. I think that it was a real world ending, just like that kid crashing this man's suicide.
It's a very believable story.
Right.
But it's also very believable they both died.
Sure.
And then I get my, kick of, not the happy ending. I'm happy with myself. I don't know. I'm not sure if it was the right path to go. Maybe there was more to it.
Do you think that the happy ending would have had a bigger impact if the story started with the old man? That way you were starting with a somber setting.
Maybe,
as opposed to starting with this light setting, ending with light setting.
Because then you would be more invested in the old man than you were the kid. So there's possibility with that there for sure.
I was more invested in the old man than the kid to begin with.
Yeah?
Yeah.
See, I think with the story setting up with the kid and being plunged into his world with the Netherworlders, you have to become invested in him. It's that classic, you want to root for this guy, I hope he gets out of that pond because he's what we got.
Okay. What do you think there is to be taken about gender in the piece?
Gender?
Yeah.
I mean...
You've got the character, Molly, I think, the wife.
Yeah.
You've got the little boy's mother.
I mean, it seems pretty classic gender roles. I mean, I don't see anything out of the ordinary that you could really poke holes in. Unless there's something that you want to try to poke holes in. I'd love to hear it.
Well, I think there's something to be said for the fact that the boy sets off to be the hero, which is very classic. The man, however, the old man, is running from his life, right? That is not your classic, manly thing to do, especially in the fact that he is not pursuing suicide in a particularly cataclysmic event, right? Like that's the way the man goes out, right, with a double barrel or a car wreck.
It's a very, I guess you could say feminine. Because
okay.
it's
we're going to
more,
get comments for that. But.
We are, and I'm okay with that. No, if you look at stereotypical gender roles, this is not the hyper-aggressive, shotgun to the face Hemingway type of death. This is a serene, peaceful death from which suffering gives beauty. Because he doesn't even comment, don't focus on that, focus on the pond. So it is feminine in the classic gender role sense, in my opinion.
Okay.
You following me there at all?
I don't know that I agree.
You don't agree?
If you want to look at stereotypical gender roles, suicide isn't a feminine thing.
No, it's a manly thing.
Right. So I don't know that there is necessarily, well, I don't know. You've got the wading out into the water for the woman to kill herself several times through classical literature, but I'm not thinking of any of the... I'm not going to be able to think of them right now, but so a more passive death that way, or sleeping pills, or...
I just think if you take classic stereotypical gender roles, which I'm going to hammer classic and stereotypical into that so I don't get set ablaze.
Right.
It is a more feminine quality to say I am going to go sit by the pond, admire the beauty, and let myself waste and just drift off into infinity. Instead of, I'm going to go blow my head off because, pish on you.
Right.
So I think so. The boy, I don't want to say is a feminine character because I want to say he's an adolescent character. It's that sense of adventure, it's a sense of youth and imagination that comes with adolescence.
Okay, but even then, going back to texts like Beowulf, for example.
Yes.
In Beowulf, what is the real man? The real man is the one that does. What has to be done is done. Already. You don't even have to ask the question because the man is going to do it. And that's what he sets out to do, right?
And you could
but he's doing that in a fantasy world.
Yes.
Because he wants this girl.
Yes.
Does not have this girl. Does not have this, the body of the athlete.
And you could look at that from the old man's perspective as well. When the job's got to be done, the job's got to be done. I'll be damned to me for, having a moment of peace. I got to go do the job. So it could be it could be a very manly characteristic, a masculine characteristic. Anyway, overall, what would you give 10th of December?
I would give 10th of December 89 suicides out of 100.
89, really?
Suicides out of 100. Because I think there's a lot of things going on under the surface that we didn't have time to touch on here, and that I would like to elaborate on, but oh well.
I think a second read would be beneficial. I really do. We could reread and just get into this with each other. We could film 10th of December Part 2 if you wanted.
We could.
I'm going to give it 82.
82?
82 drowning children.
Okay.
Out of 100. It's not bad. It might be good. I'm not sure.
Did you have a recommendation?
Did I have a recommendation for it?
Based on it?
Based on it? No, I don't. Did you?
I would say anything by T.C. Boyle.
T.C. Boyle?
Especially if you do, like we've mentioned Polinick a lot on the channel. If you read Polinick, this is not Polinick, like we mentioned earlier, but T.C. Boyle is where Polinick and Saunders meet. It's all of the humor with the slap-in-your-face prose. And I think that if those two writers are something you enjoy, you would definitely enjoy T.C. Boyle. But if you just like George Saunders, T.C. Boyle is in that same wheelhouse as far as humor is concerned.
I ordered a copy of Best American Short Stories.
2015?
I think it was 2014 that I picked up, because I knew you had 2015 because it was T.C. Boyle.
I think T.C. Boyle's in there.
I'm sure. However, did pick it up, so I figured I'd brush up on some short stories, introduce myself to some new literature, waiting for that to arrive. I also found the name of the man who Polinick credits as teaching him how to write.
Yeah, I've got his book.
Do you have his book?
Yeah.
So I was going to look into that and surprise you with it, but piss on you. So yeah, maybe I'll be able to find some more and we'll be able to make some recommendations.
Yeah.
However, on a very important note, make sure you submit your haiku down below. Give us the strip cover lit haiku of the week, and we will pick our favorite and send 10th of December to you and let you take your opinion on it.
Make sure you hit that subscribe button and that like button. We are on Twitter @StripCover and on Facebook @StripCoverLit.